I have two openings for you, Robert.
Okay. All right.
I thought the big story of the week, of the many weeks, was the fact that Joey Chestnut is back in the Nathan's hot dog eating contest.
I had not seen that, but okay. That's
you
big
haven't
news.
seen this?
I've
That's
not
what
seen that. That's breaking news, though.
Well, so anyways, they've mended fences, if you will, the Nathan's folks and Joey Chestnut, because Joey Chestnut had an arrangement with an Impossible Foods.
Yes,
and apparently
that's right.
You're not supposed to do that. But last year, ratings were down. Less hot dogs were eaten last year because Joey was banned. Joey's now back. They have made amends. So we're not going to talk about that, but I think it's important news.
That it's huge news. Huge news.
It's huge. Joey Chestnut is back. The winner last year, 858. I'm going with over 70 for Joey Chestnut.
Oh
my
God!
What number do you got?
60 is where I would
60?
go. I would
You're
go just
go
2 over. Yeah, I think
I'm
he's
going to go 72.
72.
Okay. 72 is the number. I think he's going to make a big. He's been prepping. He's going to make a big splash.
He's been prepping.
How do you prep?
Exactly. That's where I was going
gut?
with. It's like, how do you prep? I mean,
I don't know.
So many. So my inner 17-year-old is right now running with jokes, but I'm not even going to go there. That's just not. No.
So that's the opening, but that's not the opening, because here's the real opening that I want your take on.
Okay.
And this could be part of the show. And I just can't believe this. OpenAI is giving mandatory vacation to their team this week. Mandatory.
Yeah.
Because they are flipping out because Meta keeps stealing all their lead researchers. Like, they are being poached.
Ooh.
Have you seen this?
I have not seen that. No, yeah.
Oh, this is crazy. So this is from, I wanted to get your take. This is just yesterday from Futurism. It's talking about basically mandatory week-long vacation, because in the past week, Meta has hired at least 8 OpenAI researchers to work on their new super intelligence team.
Wow.
And he's not being shy. Basically, what's happening is Zuckerberg is reaching out directly.
Yeah, that's poaching, man. I mean, it's like
it's absolutely poaching. What do you think about that? It's not really the gentlemanly way to go about. Like, if you were poaching, would you do it like that? I mean, I guess if you're poaching, you're poaching.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that there's, something honor among thieves and all that, right? I mean, it's like, I don't, I mean, look, if you're one of those researchers at OpenAI, you're like, show me the money, Jerry.
Oh my God, right?
The money.
Yeah. And the thing is, there's probably no wrong answer. If you say, I want $1 million, he's probably like, yeah. If you want $2 million, he's probably like, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like that scene out of Jerry Maguire where he's like, when he's talking to the dad, he's like, we had a handshake. Tell me that there was something in your words that said, you have my word is my bond. I'm still a little moved by your speech.
That's so good. Yeah.
And then the dad basically goes, they signed him an hour ago.
I know. The problem is that Zuckerberg is the ambassador of Quan.
There it is.
That's
bingo.
You got it.
Just remember, everybody has a story to tell. Tell it well. Let this old marketing move.
And now, for your listening pleasure, here's Polizzi and Rose, covering the week of media, marketing, and digital content news. This old marketing. Take it away, boys.
Well, hello, friends. Welcome to This Old Marketing, proudly brought to you by who? Well, it's the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals, and I'm Robert Rose. And as you can see, well, it's episode 487, and it's the 4th of July, Independence Day 2025. And with me, as usual, is my pal, my colleague, and apparently not the guy who's the deciding vote for Trump's big, beautiful bill, Mr. Joe Polizzi.
You really had to bring politics into this.
Yeah, I'm leaning in, man. I'm leaning in.
I think that it's fair to say. I know that we have people on many different sides of the aisle, if you will, that listen to this show. But you and I were having a frank conversation before the show about what as an average American that is dissatisfied with what's going on right now, what's the best thing to do? Do you call your representative? You certainly don't post it on social. I don't think.
Well, yeah. I mean,
we know people that do.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure it's a Gestalt sort of therapy doing that, but yeah.
You don't talk to your parents.
Yeah.
That's a personal issue.
Oh
I
my
don't
God.
know. I don't think my mom listens to this, but yeah. So what do you we have to start the show over now. I'm not supposed to say that, folks.
Yeah.
I was not supposed to go there. But yeah, it is
well, as we speak, I mean, here's the news. I mean, you just cover the news, right? I mean,
sure,
basically,
let's cover the news.
It's as we speak, it's literally Hakeem Jeffries is on the floor of the House doing one of his marathon speeches to keep the vote from actually happening, which was supposed to happen at 4 a.m. Local time, and basically, so it would pass before sort of the news cycle began. And I think the Democrat strategy is to basically make them pass it in the light of day, but who cares, right? I mean, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's inevitable. So, yeah, I mean, there's no sense in discussing the details. Basically, it's the details have been discussed ad nauseum, and if you don't know what they are at this point, then you haven't been paying attention and probably don't want to pay attention. So, yeah, there's not a lot to cover here, other than the fact that it literally could pass as we're recording this.
Here's the thing, and I think I mentioned this a couple episodes ago. If we were in the position, well, we are in the position, if we were going to make the decision and say, look, this debt is not even close. Our deficit is out of control. We're going to tighten everything up so that we get to a budget that makes sense. I think people can live with that. I think it's like, we got to get rid of this. We got to get rid of that. I'm not gonna like certain parts of it, but that I could live with. It's the thing that we got to cut all these things that basically make us a compassionate country, and we've got to keep all the things in that make the rich more rich. That's what kills me. And we're still not breaking even on the budget here. We're still whatever $3 or $4 trillion higher than we need to be.
Yeah.
That's what bothers me.
I mean, that's the great point. And it goes back to my rant, whatever it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, where I said, it's not the what, it's the how, right? I mean, we can have nuanced policy decisions. And for most part, I think we would, most people would agree on the actual policy, whether it's, a nuanced immigration policy, whether it's a fiscal policy, whether it's we need to tighten our belts because Social Security is going to run out for this generation, whether there's income disparity. I mean, all of those things we could probably, if we looked at the nuances of the argument, we could probably ultimately find agreement that, yes, those things need to get fixed. It's the how they're being fixed that's so enraging, right? And the level of cruelty and unfairness is, and the way that they go about it, right? It's the way that the rules are happening and being broken. It's the way that, you're giving favor to, well, anyway, I'll get off on a rant, but it's not the what, it's the how. And that's the biggest challenge with the way that the mainstream media covers all of this stuff, is that they cover the game. They're covering the winner and loser of the game rather than how it's being played. And that's, it's a sad state for the fourth estate. And, so there you have it.
I had a conversation with my youngest. We were just talking about how communication has changed when it came to, have you seen the movie Vice?
For sure.
The Dick Cheney movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
So basically, long story short, there were a lot of horrible things going on. So they would do a lot of horrible things under the George W. Bush presidency. But outwardly, they would say that they're not. They would say, we're doing this for this good reason and that good reason. So, I mean, they were lying, but they were presenting a good face to it. It's like, we're trying to do this for the benefit of the people. No, all these people are getting rich. That's what we're trying to do. Okay. And I was talking with my youngest. He's like, "This is what I don't get. They're not even hiding it.
No,
They're
that's
not.
exactly right.
They're coming right out and saying, yes,
That's right.
absolutely. We're trying to make the rich richer. Absolutely, yes. We don't care about the poor.
That's right.
It's like, I'm like, wow.
Right. They're saying the quiet part out loud. Yeah.
In some ways, I guess that's refreshing. But more than anything, it's surprising.
It's a testament to the he tells it like it is, right? Sort of strategy, which is clearly resonating with a large enough percentage of the population. And it's just uncovered our sort of, our penchant. We talked about this before we got on the air too. It's like, it talks about our penchant as American for cruelty. We are a cruel people.
Yeah, and that's where I think the biggest thing changed, where we think as Americans that we have always been compassionate people. We talked about this with USAID, with Voice of America, although that's marketing. Yes, we are that's not true. And that's why when you see that latest study that came out, is like, where are the best countries to live in now? We don't even make the top 20.
Yeah. Right.
Because nobody wants to be around people that believe this stuff outwardly. Anyways, this is really off to a good. I'm really happy
off to a happy show
that you did.
We actually have a really fun show,
especially on Independence Day.
Well, that's kind of the reason, right?
But we're going to talk about freedom.
We're going to talk about freedom. We're going to talk about all sorts of fun, happy things. We have a bit, sort of a half and half show. We have a couple of news things to cover, and then we're going to do a special episode. So what we'll start with is we've got the big news coming out. We'll talk about a couple of things. Which is, the first one is a really interesting story that nobody seems to be covering. I just think it's fascinating. It's Cloudflare. Cloudflare is now allowing for charging companies, especially AI companies, for scraping content. That really interesting new development in technology. Anyway, the other news is that Paramount has settled their lawsuit. And we'll talk about what that might mean for news and for content and for media and for all of us. Then we'll pay the bills, and we have our new music video. That'll be fun. Southern rock. Nice. It's a Southern rock style ad. So we'll do that. We'll pay the bills, and then we're going to have a little bit of a special segment here to close us out for our Independence Day. We're talking about your marketing plan B. In other words, your marketing alternative plan. It's basically the new normal as we work today, which is whether you're a content creator, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a manager in a marketing organization that's big, everybody needs sort of that idea of a personal brand and a plan B to get basically, manage your career these days. And it's no longer sort of a nice to have. It's kind of a must have in today's world. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, about why the personal brand is so important and why you need to think about that. And basically, the idea of a plan B, basically building your plan B without burning down your plan A, of course. And then we'll have a few best practices and some personal stories about how we are starting to manage all of that. And then we'll get out of here and let you go watch fireworks and eat barbecue and spend time with your family and all of that kind of stuff. So
I think it's probably more hot dogs and hamburgers on 4th of July than barbecue.
Totally. Oh my gosh.
But barbecue does sound good.
I love a good hot dog on 4th of July. Hot dogs on the grill are one of my favorite things.
We get these Thurman dogs from K&K Portage Market, which is right down the street, and they're unbelievable. I ran into our friend J.K. Kalinowski yesterday, and he said, "Are you making the special hot dogs?" I said, "Yeah, man, I'm making the special."
There it is. making a special hot dog.
Oh, I got a special hot dog just for you.
Yes. And look, hey, all of you out there, don't add us with what's what's really in hot dogs. It's like, I know what's really in hot dogs.
We know what's in it. This is a special day. That's when we celebrate our independence by eating the worst possible thing that we could put into our bodies.
Don't at me. Yeah.
Don't at me or hashtag me, man.
Yeah. Right.
Do it.
All right. Let's get to our first story here, which is fascinating to me that this isn't like huge news. But there a few media outlets covering this, and we'll link to the TechCrunch article here that's talking about this. Cloudflare has launched a marketplace that lets websites charge AI bots for scraping. So Cloudflare, a cloud infrastructure provider that serves 20% of the web, which is an amazing stat all of its own, by the way, announced Tuesday the launch of a new marketplace that reimagines the relationship between website owners and AI companies, ideally giving publishers greater control over their content. I think it gives everybody control, but anyway, we'll get into that.
Yeah.
For the last year, Cloudflare has launched tools for publishers to address the rampant rise of AI crawlers, including a one-click solution to block all AI bots, as well as a dashboard to view how AI crawlers are visiting their site. In a 2024 interview, Cloudflare CEO Matthew Prince told TechCrunch these products were laying a foundation for a new type of marketplace in which publishers could distribute their content to AI companies and be compensated for it. Now they're bringing that to life. It's called Pay Per Crawl, and Cloudflare is launching the experiment in a private beta on Tuesday. Website owners in the experiment can choose to let AI crawlers on an individual basis scrape their site at a set rate, a micropayment for every single crawl. Alternatively, website owners can choose to let AI crawlers scrape their site for free or block them altogether. Cloudflare claims its tools will let website owners see whether crawlers are scraping their site for AI training data to appear in AI search responses or for other purposes. The article goes on here to talk a little bit more about the details here about that this is a big idea, that they could offer a potential business model around it in the AI era, and basically, talks about the whole idea. I think this is genius. I really think this is just such a interesting solution to whether we gate content or not gate content. And certainly, yeah, publishers are the tip of the spear here, but boy, this could be for everybody. Like the first thing I thought was, wow, all my white papers, all my thought that I make, that I make available on my blog and that sort of thing that I like to make available for people for free, I could actually charge AI and it's just such a great, interesting thing. I really like it.
I agree. It sounds too good to be true. I know that you need a company as big as Cloudflare, which I think you said handles 20% of the internet. Like, I don't know, large company being able to do this. And now they're in affiliation with, what is it? Time, Forbes, I don't know, Fortune, some big publishers.
Those are the ones doing the beta. Yeah.
Basically. So basically they built this alliance. This is going to be a thing. They've got the dashboard set up. It's possible to do this. They'll test it out. I mean, you have the ability to do this with Google, right? Or you don't have to have a search engine search certain pages. You can set it up so that's actually.
Well, it seems like you could do this for search engines too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that would be interesting to set that up. In other words, anybody that wants access to your content,
right?
So I'm like, yeah, I'm in, right? I think that everyone should have this choice. I just don't know if it's possible.
Where is this? I mean, the interesting thing is, where has this been all our lives, right? I mean, this would have been the answer back in 2002 and 2003, right? And you know what I mean? It's like, this would have been, I mean, I guess it just took the size of a Cloudflare to, to do this. And by the way, you got to figure that if you do this through their tool, they're taking a piece of it. So
they're getting a commission.
It's an amazing little business model as well.
They're taking the vig.
If this had been available when Google started searching, I think the facet when I thought about this, the interesting thing to me was, if this had come out in 2003 or something, right? 2002, where we were, where we were all like, oh, everybody's wringing their hands over whether we let Google index our site or not for search, and should we block it, blah blah blah. But no, we got to rank for search, and the whole argument we were having back then, especially as publishers. And if this had been an option, it would have changed the entire nature of search engine optimization, right? I mean, and it would have changed Google's business model entirely. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into this, but this feels really big.
I think in hindsight, we think this, but honestly, you would create a group of people that want to get paid, and they're like, okay, well, I'm putting this gate in, and then Google and Microsoft and whoever, they can make that decision to pay me and get my stuff if it's valuable enough. And then you've got a whole group of people that are like, I don't care, I'm not going to use that as a revenue line. I want my content out there first and foremost, and I'll give it to Google and whatever, and now AI for free because I want to be found there. I
Sure.
want to. So you would have this, I think, separation, which I think is honestly what'll happen here as well. It's like, okay, great. Maybe if you're the New York Times, you can do this because that content is so valuable. But if, let's say it's you and I'm like, you know what, I'm going to forego. I'm just going to open my site up because I want to make sure that I'm in the results when they search for things on content marketing or content entrepreneurship or whatever. I want to make sure I'm there. So I think that's where you're gonna. I think it presents a tougher decision than just if everybody did it, then it would be great. We're all playing the same game. But if it's not that way, then you have a decision to make.
Right. Well, you have a decision to make either way, right? But what's fascinating to me is that this, and obviously I haven't gotten into it, I haven't seen the tool, and I haven't seen how it works, and all that sort of thing. But where my head immediately went is, okay, if so the pushback, if you will, from the AI companies is like they can now run a report and say, okay, here's all the sites that we want to crawl or scrape for training. And they can say, okay, here's the ones that are blocking us for that quote unquote fee, right? That are basically asking for a toll. And so they can then make a decision like having a human go do it, right? In other words, have a human go basically log into New York Times and get all that content and manually put it in and make that sort of business decision, which you can see for publishers is an interesting decision. Because to your point, you do want Google search index to find the Business Insider article or the whatever it is that's behind a firewall, but be able to scrape it to say it's in search. But if you click on it as a human, you're going to have to be a subscriber to get it, right? And so there's that sort of decision to make. Like, okay, are you letting it search your site to show up in search or answers? But then you're really going to make your money off of the humans clicking on that and doing all of that. Same thing. But then if you go so basically, that makes sense for like the New York Times and for Forbes and for those that would charge for access to content anyway. But for someone like me or you, where we're making it available for free for humans, but then we're not expecting to actually grow in clicks, and there's no benefit from it. I mean, I really struggle with the benefit of being cited in answers, by the way. I really struggle with the marketing benefit of that. Full stop right now.
It's like PR. It's like,
it's not at best, right? I mean, at best, right? You could be lumped in with a bad answer too, and it could be the other way.
Yeah, but let's just, if somebody's searching for like who are the top content marketing speakers, and you want to be there because then they're going to be making an actual decision to hire you. For
low funnel sort of choices, I can see the benefit of being listed, right? I can see the benefit of being listed, but the interesting thing is that the how ephemeral that is for the person, because all your searches are based on your history, right? So it's not going to. There's no standard, right? In other words, there's no, you know what I mean?
It's like now, I guess what the way that I see it, take the way we search out of it now. Just go to, and whatever, it doesn't matter if it's ChatGPT. We're just going to some search. That's going to be truth. That's just it's going to give us back information on whatever our truth is, little t, big T. That's what it's going to return. So right now is really important time where we've got to make sure we're part of these results, because in 2 to 3 years, you might be too late, theoretically.
I don't agree with
part of the matrix being a thing.
I don't think there's any advantage to first mover advantage here. I just don't think there's any. I don't think there's any rush on this. I really don't. I don't think
you're Walmart, not Amazon in this case.
You're
holding back on your e-commerce strategy, and you're like,
I just don't. I think it gets. I mean, I guess my point is that I think it gets more personal, not less personal, and so I think, again, being more complex versus less complex. So I think anything you rush into doing today in terms of trying to show up in answers is, we learned this lesson with search, right? We learned this lesson with Google, that one change of the algorithm
can change
and you're out, right? All that money you poured into, search. I can't tell you how many CEOs I had literally so frustrated and yelling at me and basically saying, I put hundreds of thousands of dollars in this when Google came out to rank high, and now they changed the algorithm and we're done.
Yeah.
It's like the same thing's going to happen with answer engines, right? It's just the same.
I think it's this, but I think it goes back to what was our strategy in 06, 07, 08. It was to make sure that we're found.
Right.
And you have a diversified practice of being found in all these places.
Right. But that's the different thing is that you're being found for that deeper click, right? You're being found for that deeper exploration into your content, into your thinking, into your ideas. You're not being found to just be, like you pointed out, because I agree with you, that the truth, in other words, there is no click at the end of this. There is no exploration. It's like, okay, they see a list. And then what, right? Are they going to make a decision based on that list? Or are they going to actually go look at everybody's website? Well, then they're just doing exactly what they used to do. So for those answers, they're going to
make a decision.
I agree with you. I think they are going to make a decision. And basically I think it's not going to do it necessarily. I think what's going to happen is you're going to start to see a pendulum swing back, because it's like, they're not going to get the best answer. And then maybe they do. But the point being, it's going to get more complex, not less. So therefore, there's no first mover advantage here.
Well, we'll see where this. I mean, I like the Cloudflare thing. I think that there's something there. It'll be interesting.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're covering it here.
Yeah.
Nobody else.
Good stuff. It's really interesting stuff. I'm totally going to follow this. Anyway, speaking of getting paid for our content, we have our new ad unit here. This was so much fun. I have to tell you, this was so much fun. So for those of you on YouTube, you're going to see this, or if you're watching this on LinkedIn, you're going to see this. For those of you who are listening, just listen and enjoy that. We're going to pay the bills Southern Rock style.
Take 2, Southern Rock. Here we go.
You don't become the world's most valuable women's sports franchise by accident. Angel City Football Club did it with a little help from HubSpot. When they started, data was housed across multiple systems. HubSpot unified their website, email marketing, and fan experience into one platform. This allowed their small team of 3 to build an entire website in just 3 days. The results? Nearly 350 new signups a week and 300% database growth in just 2 years. Visit HubSpot.com to hear how HubSpot can help you grow better. You want a great podcast recommendation? How about Create Like the Greats, hosted by Ross Simmons? Each episode hosts an in-depth analysis of some of the greatest creations and creators of all time, along with a deep dive conversation on the creative process that went into building companies, brands, stories, and more. If you like learning about history, learning about the creative process, and are a laid-back person, you're going to like this podcast. You can find Create the Greats wherever you follow your favorite podcasts.
The best. There's so many interesting things to pick out of that. The one that I told you this last time. My microphone is not only a steering wheel, but it's a fishing rod too.
Oh my God, I love.
And the chicken is the size of a house.
I know.
Walking through our back patio, which the barn is in the middle of a city.
My favorite thing about that whole thing is that you're just looking at the camera deadpan as I'm talking to you. It's just like you're so disappointed in life. It's like it's just.
Well, that's the only real part about that. I'm just like,
Yeah.
like, what is Robert talking about?
Oh my God, it's so good. It's
I like
so
you with
good.
the cowboy hat in that one scene.
Yeah, they got the rhinestone cowboy thing going on the yacht.
Or whatever. I'm like, oof,
we're on a yacht.
Yeah, I do like it. I think I like it more for the mistakes.
But that's the whole point. That's the whole point. Like, there's no sense in making this good. You know what I mean? It's like
a couple of years we'll look back on this and say, wow,
oh, it's good comedy.
What was
It's
going
good
on?
I mean, it's AI slop at its finest, folks.
That is a good point. Yes, absolutely.
It is, but it's meant to be stupid, and yeah, it is. It's our big beautiful ad. You know what I mean?
It's funny because every time we send it to HubSpot, they're like, they don't know what to do with this. Nobody else is doing this. They're the people just reading the ads.
Yeah.
So,
All
good stuff.
right.
You did a great job.
Thank you very much. It was totally fun. I'm very much enjoying this whole thing. And and next month so we'll have this obviously for the month of July. But next month we're going to do musicals. So Broadway musicals.
There's so many ways we could go.
Oh my gosh, that one.
I can't wait.
Be fun. Yeah.
Okay. Good. All right. What do we got?
Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of a special segment here for the 4th of July special episode here about our Plan B and how you can make a Plan B without spoiling your Plan A, and basically how that all affects your marketing as a person, marketing yourself as a person, whether you're a content creator, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a manager, director, VP, owner of a business, whatever it is. What is your Plan B and your personal brand to get there? Maybe let's start. We'll just have a couple of topics for the discussion, and Joe and I can now even share some personal stories here. But I think what we want to start with is sort of, the importance of this, right? The importance that we're in 2025 now. We have a new normal for sure when it comes to us navigating our careers, navigating our companies, navigating our personal brand. Even if you're not selling anything, so kick us off here and let me know why is this so important today to have this Plan B and a personal brand that can execute it.
Well, I think you said it in the beginning, is that it used to be nice to have. I'm working on my personal brand. I've got my side project. And I think now this is a survival issue. You have a different take, which I'm really interested in versus me. I'm about the fact that why do you want to, why are you giving another entity so much more control over what you do? Because if it's just you and you don't have much of a personal brand, you don't have an email newsletter, and you don't have a podcast or whatever sets you apart, whatever your differentiation is, if you don't have that and something happens, you are in big trouble. And I'm thinking, I've got many situations in my head that have happened very recently with marketers in the field right now who've lost their jobs, and they start at stage one and they're going and doing Indeed and LinkedIn, and they're reaching out, and they're doing it the old fashioned way, beyond the way that they don't represent anything. They don't stand apart in any way. They don't have a following of any kind. And when I say following, I don't mean thousands. I mean even dozens of people that follow you for your own independent expertise outside of what you do for the company. And we've known this, Robert, for so long, and yet there are so many of the people that we know that are in marketing, let's just say content marketing, that come to the events that we go to, that haven't worked on this, that haven't set this as a priority. And it's scary. I would be deathly afraid right now if I have a job working for somebody, knowing what's going on with AI, not even AI, just the regular shifting of now we're going to cut back on marketing, now we're going to cut back on employees in our organization. I think Microsoft just made another announcement that they're letting 9,000 more people go as part of, we're going to see this happen over the next 12 to 18 months, AI excuse or not. And you've got to be prepared that that's going to happen if you want a salary, if that's the way. Now that's not what I believe, and I'll share a little bit more about what I believe later, but I think you absolutely have to, as marketing or content creation survival, have something where this is what I stand for, this is my differentiation, and this is how I've shown this through my communication online.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah, you're right. My take is slightly different. I don't think it's I certainly don't think I disagree with what you're saying, but it's a different angle, I guess,
Sure.
on the same thing, which is I recognize that there are people, especially in, well, let's call them my age bracket, right? Not necessarily your age bracket because you're a youngster. And
That's
so,
we're in the same generation, my friend.
yeah, roughly.
We're just
Roughly
at different
speaking.
ends.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so one of the things that I'm acutely aware of are that there are people who aren't interested in becoming a blogger, becoming an influencer, becoming, a known for, and make money at, and have a side hustle that, they're very happy and with their work-life balance where they have a job that is 9 to 5, whatever it is,
Yeah.
and they work in a middle, and by the way, we're talking almost exclusively here about marketing folks, communication folks, people who are, have some sort of, let's call it, sort of middle of the road, sort of white collar sort of thing. This doesn't necessarily apply to police officers or, emergency room workers or, those kinds. It can.
We're talking about knowledge workers.
We're talking about knowledge workers for the most part here. So the key here is that as that person, right? And I've had this conversation, I don't know, 7 or 8 times this year with people my age that were leaders, like VPs of marketing, CMOs, senior directors of marketing at very well-established organizations. And to your point, the rug got pulled out from underneath them, right? It's like the board just decided that they weren't going to do marketing anymore, or or they were going to do this big layoff or whatever. And now, the famous, what is it? The Jim Carrey quote, right? You can get fired from a job that you love. And so, having that sort of mentality and being prepared for it. And the way that you prepare for it these days, and this is the conversation I've had some 7 or 8 or 9 times now, is that you have to have built a foundation on which you stand apart. I mean, this is a big part of my new book, right? Is the idea of how do we stand apart in today's world? And just having that ability, whether it's your LinkedIn profile is, really robust and current and whether you have your own blog, whether you start your own email newsletter, whether you start building a network, if you want to call it that, rather than an audience, but basically building relationships with the industry that you're in so that you stand apart from the other candidates because it is getting looked at, right? The cliche these days is that you send in through Indeed, you send in through LinkedIn, and it's just a ghost farm, right? I mean, you just get ghosted and ghosted and ghosted, and 912 applicants, to this particular post, so you're going to be competing no matter what you're doing. You're competing with thousands of people vying for the same job. The job you're going to get almost certainly is not going to come through that angle. It's going to come through personal relationships that you have built over time and being known for something, having a reputation for something, getting referred into something. And so you're really building your own network, your own audience, your own establishment of relationships so that you have that leg up if the floor gets pulled out from underneath you. Now we can talk about, okay, great. Now, do you want to make money at it? Right. Because it's, that's the next step if you would choose to take such a thing.
Sure. But I think that your point, it almost gets me thinking about just proper financial diversification. So if you talk to any anybody who's good at investments, even if you believe so much in Bitcoin or in stocks or in Nvidia, you don't put everything into that basket because you don't know. You might think you know, but like we talk about this whole show, everything we think we know, but we don't know. We've been wrong plenty of times. But the thing is, we take a lot of shots. You take a lot of shots, you're going to be right more often than if you take one shot. And what you're saying, and I think what I'm saying as well, is most marketers are taking one shot. This is the old world way to do it. We were college educated. We continue to upskill, and we're building up as much skill as we can so that we can get paid more money per hour by somebody else.
That's right.
That is very risky today. It used to be that was the way you did it. Today, not so much. You could be laid off, and it's funny. Everybody's like saying, "Oh, AI is going to take my job." It doesn't matter, because when I started at Penn Media in 2000, I think it was something like 25% of the people that worked there were there more than 20 years or more. And by the time 2007 came along and I left that company, we had maybe 4 or 5 people left in the entire company that had 20 years in. They laid off everybody.
Right.
And some of the groups were doing really well. It just happens. Companies do this. There is no loyalty. So you have to create your own loyalty. And I think you do that through, to your point, by being known for something to stand apart, but also by this idea of, it's just smart because it's diversifying yourself. You have a lot of different ways. You have a lot more options than if you say, I'm just going to be really good at my job. Not good enough.
That's
Not
right.
good enough anymore.
That's right. It's the idea that, yes, the risk profile for a career in corporate America is higher these days than it was when you and I entered the job market. There's no doubt about that. By the way, the flip side is also true. The loyalty on employee side is much lower than it
should be.
As it should be, or as it would be, or as it could be, right? I mean, I don't know that there's a right or wrong way to do this. It's just what it is, right? And so whether or not it's just, we need to acknowledge that as employees, that business owners and senior leadership see that as well. In other words, that's their perception. Their perception is that we're hiring people that aren't loyal to us, so therefore we're not as loyal to them. And who started it, it doesn't matter, right? The point is that the risk profile is higher for people who are employees in companies, and therefore you need to stand apart in the marketplace. And it doesn't. So whether AI is coming for your job or not doesn't matter, because that's something you can't control anyway. All you can do is, how do I best strategize for my own well-being of basically marketing myself? And the way to think about that is, how do I start building my network of relationships as a knowledge worker, as an insight, as a creative worker, as a, whatever that, however resonates with you. How do I start building those relationships, audience, if you prefer, so that I stand apart in that marketplace of people that are going to be out there competing for the same things that I'm competing for.
And it's the same exercise that we've talked about forever. And what, you call it different things than I do. But if you say, what is my differentiation area? What is my true super skill that does set me apart? And I don't think you have enough marketers that do that. They don't think about that. Just like if you were building a media company, like, what's my mission statement? What's my content marketing mission statement? What is that separate? Is it exclusive enough? Is it niche enough? Is it targeted to the right audience? Those types of things. You have to answer that for yourself. What is your personal mission when it comes to your career? What sets you apart? And then you can go down there and build. It just saddens me. I've had some of the same conversations you have where, and these are people that have been in marketing for a while, and they got laid off in 2001 and 2002. And then they built the blog and they started building out, some of the things that we're talking about. Then they get hired. Then they stopped all that because they're hired. Right. Then they get laid off again. I got to start the newsletter over again. I'm like, why do you keep going back to step one?
Right.
If you would have stayed through this and whatever, you'd never get laid off.
Right.
Because you do have something that separates you. I don't know.
That's right. Well, maybe talk a little bit about, because I definitely have a take on this part too, because one of the conversations that I end up having with folks is, I buy into the idea, maybe lock, stock, and barrel, right? I buy into
Yep.
the idea of that I need to do this. I need to get paid for it. I need to have it as a sort of a supplemental income, or I just need to do it as part of my job, right? As part of my, my career, whether I spend an hour a night on this, or whether I spend my weekends doing some of this, or whether I spend some time during the day doing this, whatever it is. The question that inevitably comes up is, what am I talking about? Like, what do I do? Like, is it self-promotion? Like, am I just screaming my own name from the rooftops, or or am I just networking with people on LinkedIn, or am I talking about the thing that I'm in my job doing? Like, do I talk about my
Sure.
company? Where do you find, how do you know where to focus your efforts? Whether it's, I love travel, so I'm going to be a travel expert, but that has nothing to do with my next
Yeah.
career move, right? What is your advice there?
I think you can go a lot of different directions, but you have to remember that the thing that you love to do might not necessarily be the thing
Right.
that you're good at.
Right.
Scott Galloway talks this all the time.
Right.
It's like,
Exactly.
it's like, please, if you're getting out of college, don't believe that that somebody says, "Oh, just follow your passion,"
Right.
because there may be no money in your passion. It's
Right.
like, I love to collect baseball memorabilia.
Yeah.
Good luck. That's a
Yeah.
great passion. It's not gonna have an editorial mission statement behind this. Be able to build something. So what I like to, yes. What are the things that you love? What are you curious about? But really, what are you good at? What are the 2 or 3 things that sets you apart? And by the way, ask your friends. It's
Yeah.
okay. Ask the people that you work with. What do they come to you for? Is it your organization? Is it your big picture thinking? Is it your understanding of email marketing? Whatever it is, write those things down, because we want to bring those interests and those skills, that talent, and then we're gonna bring them all together, and that's what you're gonna sit with. It Finding your tilt and your differentiation is not an overnight thing. It takes a while. Really took me a couple of years to find it when I was really looking at content marketing, because I was struggling with it. And what does it mean? Is it more media? Is it more publishing? Is it just marketing? Is it public relations? So you have to really sit with it and say, okay, what can I be one of the leading experts in the world at? What makes you inherently you? You look at all those interests and those talents, and you bring it together in ultimately a mission. So that's what I would say, Robert. I don't know if you have a disagreement or an add-on to that, but that's what I would say. Start there. Your output is different. Really, what we're talking about, like, what's step one? What's home base for you? This is the mission that I'm going for. And then you communicate that mission a lot of different ways. Does that mean it's an email newsletter? Does that mean you do different things on LinkedIn? Does that mean you're going to start a podcast? Do you do regular TikTok videos? Do you do something on Pinterest? Those are all secondary questions. That's the what. It's not the why. We
Right.
want to start with what the why is, and that's what I
Yes.
would recommend to everyone.
That's right. And where I agree wholeheartedly. My question is always, okay, well, what's your objective, right? What's the objective here? Because it comes back to what we were just talking about, which is, do you ultimately want to build something that is a business, or do you want to just build something that's going to further your career in the industry that you have chosen as your career? Like, if you're passionate about marketing in technology companies, well, then the topic itself and what you're talking about is pretty clear, right? What you want to, so the question becomes, what do you want to be known for? And so when you start to think about that, to your point, it gets into the, what are you good at? There's the Japanese thing. It's like, mixing, what are you good at? What does the market want? What is it, that is the middle thing, is your thing. And so there's that exercise to do for sure, but it all depends on your goal, right? In other words, for example, I was having a conversation with a VP of marketing at a technology company, who she was acutely aware that she could be laid off at any time, right? She saw the writing on the wall for, the company was going to get acquired at some point, and her job would probably be duplicative. And so she was probably going to get, and so she was thinking about what she wanted to do next. Right. And she was like, I don't want another VP of marketing at a tech job. Right. And so it's like, okay, so what do you want to do, right? What is it that you want to do? And for her, she wanted to get into the nonprofit world of, of making sure that it was a thing on, homeless people, right? So, or unhoused people, sorry. And so she wanted to get into that world. And so I was like, there you go, right? There's where you want to be. That's what you want to do and be known for. Start working on that. Right. Start working on that so that you stand out to those nonprofit organizations. And so either you can start your own, right? Whatever those things are for you, so it's literally just taking the time like you would with, your estate planning and your financial literacy and all the things that you do to prepare for your next phase of life, your next season of life. That's what you do for this as well, is navigating the personal branding and growth that you want to have as ultimately as a creator.
And as much as I want to stress that your talent is different than your skill, the advice I've been giving, the same advice to people coming out of college wanting to go into marketing for the last 20 years. I just say, build an audience.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's around catching butterflies or vinyl records or baseball or whatever. If you are working on, if you're following the proven way to build an audience, where you build that mission statement and then you focus on doing one thing really well, that's an email newsletter or that's a video series or a podcast or whatever, and you do the things to build an audience, you will be more in demand. Like, you can separate yourself really quickly in any interview and say, oh yeah, look at my website here. Yeah, it's basically the only place you can find about rare catchers of butterflies, whatever. You'd be like, wow. And then, yeah, and here's my podcast that I do. I've done once a week for the last 2 years, and I've got an audience of 500 downloads a week, whatever it is. It's like, oh my God, if I'm the person hiring, I'm like, yeah, because you already know all the things about marketing. What does the customer need? How do I listen to the customer? How do I identify pain points? How do I take that information and develop that, integrate that into my marketing plan? You already know that stuff.
Yeah,
easy.
exactly.
You're hired.
Yeah.
You're the only one doing this. So even
right.
and that could be around something that you're passionate about, not necessarily be a money-making thing at the long run, but it will absolutely separate you from everybody else trying to get that job.
Yeah. Okay. In just a quick moment of time that we have left, because we want to keep it, keep it to an hour today. Where should, like if you were starting from scratch, like what would you, because the next question that I get asked all the time is like, oh, well, do I do a blog? Do I do an email newsletter? Do I do a social media? Do I do all of that? What do I do? Like, where would you start if you were starting from scratch today?
So my take on this is different than many.
Yeah.
So here is my take. And I believe that you have to think about it like the sorting hat in Harry Potter, where yes, where you should be, but you get a say in it. Like that hat goes on. It's like, if that says Gryffindor, but I want to be in Slytherin, you have a say. And what I mean by that is, if you believe that everything in the world is telling you that video is the place to go, but you enjoy writing and you're good at writing, then do something with text. Write the book, write the email newsletter. If you are terrible on camera, but you're a really good spokesperson, maybe you're an audio only podcast. You can do any of these things, but really look into what you're good at, what you're comfortable at. And honestly, the most important thing is what you're going to get up every day and do, because the only thing that the algorithm is consistency. That is the only algorithm that works. You have to get up every day and do the thing. Robert and I have to get up and do it. This is 487. We've been doing. Why are we successful? Because 487 hours of this crap we've done. Really, we've showed up. You have to show up. So whatever you're going, if you say, oh, I want to do the whole TikTok video thing, but you don't show up doing that, then what does it matter? But if you can show up every week and do a Substack, then do that. So that's what I would say, is spend some time. It's like, what are you actually going to do? Lean into those skills, and that's what you can choose. Even though somebody would say, oh, go into AI or go do this. No, all those things work. That's why I always tell people, you know what? Vinyl records still sell pretty well.
Yeah.
it's okay if you want to be, if you want to do written, if you want to do print books, if that's your thing, or you want to do an email newsletter, that's your thing. You don't have to do the newest, craziest video, whatever. Lean into whatever that you will do every day upon every week. So that's my take. What's your recommendation with that?
So mine's, I love yours because yours is strategic. So mine's a little more tactical. And so what I always recommend is to say, the first thing you do is build your, what I always call it the sphere of influence, right? So build your base, build your home base, whether that's a website for you or a blog or an email newsletter on Substack. Whatever that is where you want to aggregate your addressable audience over time. The audience that you're going to be able to speak to. So build that. Now you have to grow that. Like, how do you grow that? Two elements that I have seen be really successful for those that are looking to get into the various, whatever the topic is that you want to talk about and be known for, which is one, go find those communities. Go find, because it guaranteed it exists. And whether that's a writing, thing, or whether it's marketing, or whether it's technology and Bitcoin, or whether it's electric vehicles, or whether it's nonprofit, work, and whatever the thing is, go find those events, for example. Go attend those events, go start networking with those people, build those relationships with those people, start to get known within that community, right? Write about those things, feature those people, draft off of other people's fame in some cases, right? That's what I did. By the way, I joined up with this guy, Joe Polizzi, who was a lot more famous than me. And I said, hey, let's write a book together. So,
we were both equally not famous.
So you can draft off of other people and start to build your network and become known within the niche, tiny little niche communities, and then start stringing those things together and then you're a speaker at the event, and then you write the book, and then you do the thing, right? And then extend your footprint is the other tactical thing. Today, it's the zero-click world. So write for other blogs, write for other magazines, write for other communities, and point them all back to your sphere of influence, right? So if somebody sees an article in Content Marketing Institute's blog or some other blog, that they're clicking through to your site, who is this person? And then they click through to your site, and then they sign up for your email newsletter. So that's the tactical sort of look, and build your sphere, and then start working concentric circles out. Events, big. Other people's properties, big, and draft off of the influencers that are already in the space.
I'm so happy you said that, because I don't talk about it enough. But the one time that I was putting together, I think, Content Inc. in 2015, and I started counting up the other places that I created content, and it was like 10 to 1. I had like 400 different places where I wrote articles, I did webinars, I was at events, and it was so many more than I did for myself. And I think we forget about that. I always say, you down with OPC, other people's content. Yeah. Make sure you show up in other people's content.
That's right.
And that's probably the key. Now, you definitely want your home base. Like your point was, what's your home base? Because they're going to come back to that.
Right.
But from a findability standpoint, they're not going to find it from your home base initially. They're going to find it somewhere else.
Yep. OPC is your journey. The home base is the destination. So think about it in that way, because it's really, and that's, by the way, another way that you draft, right? In other words, when I was first starting out, getting my name and my blog alongside the likes of Jay Bear and others that I really respected and were influential in the space, you'd see a blog post by Jay Bear. Then underneath that, you'd see me, and the consumer or my audience basically started to equate me with Jay, right? And so I started drafting a bit off of Jay Bear because I could do that. Now, when my book comes out and it kind of looks like, it's basically, you get that sort of halo effect of the community you're trying to join.
Excellent. Yeah. And the one thing I was going to share that I'm not, I wrote today's newsletter that I wrote from my orange letter from joepolizzi.com was on, it was called Notes on Freedom. And It's talking about this topic specifically. I'm not going to share it here. I'll put it in the show notes.
Oh, do it. Yeah.
But basically,
see how that works, meta. See how it's all coming together. It's
something right now, because you and I have our new books. We're sort of really passionate about these topics. This topic right now, I'm very passionate about, because I want everyone to ask them about, like, what is freedom to you?
Yes.
And
Freedom.
Let's just be honest. Let's just be honest with you.
Freedom.
If you're working for somebody else,
Freedom.
it is very, very difficult to have complete freedom.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not talking about existential freedom. I'm not talking about some of the things that we talked about at the beginning of the show.
Right.
I'm talking about things for your career to be free. And that's some of the questions that you want to
I
ask.
call it the bandwidth of choice, right? That's when you know that you're really abundant in the world, is when you have a high bandwidth of choice.
I can do what I want, when I want, and I
That's
can
right.
say no to the things I want to say no
That's
to, and a big yes to the things that I want to say yes
Exactly.
to. And if for some reason you can't, then you have some freedom.
Do you have a narrow bandwidth of choice? And then it's, it's like I can't, right? I can't do that because, right?
Yeah.
And you widen your bandwidth of choice by doing the preparation and the hard work.
Yep, absolutely. Love it. I love this conversation. You know what? This probably leads well into what the heck are we going to do for the rest of July?
Yeah, we're doing some special things, folks, for the month of July, because both Joe and I are traveling extensively, I should say, in the month of July. And so instead of trying to figure out how we're going to keep the news up and keep, each other sort of on the road, sort of mic setups and all that kind of stuff, we're actually going to do 2 shows each alone on these kinds of topics. Basically, Joe is picking a couple of topics from his new book. I'm going to pick a couple of topics from my new book. And so next week, you will see me alone kicking things off for July with a topic. And then you'll see Joe the week after. Then you'll see me the week after. And then Joe will kick us off into August. And then we'll be back in the beginning of August with another regularly show
scheduled programming. We'll
so it's a test for us to see if this kind of thing works for you all. So once we get sort of, through some of it, we would love your feedback and if this is the kind of thing that you really like, because we can do more of it, not more necessarily alone, but we could add. In other words, it would be a yes and, right? We would do our regular shows and we could also add special episodes with just the 2 of us on occasion, which might cover a very specific topic that either Joe or I are passionate about, and sort of add to your podcast goodness feed within this feed. So it's a bit of an experiment for us in July, and we figure July is a good time to do the experiment and all of that. So there you go.
You know what? And all I want to say is, this is my big pet peeve, is I have some podcasts that I listen to, and when they go on vacation or a situation happens,
it annoys the hell out of me. Yeah,
they will bring in like, they will just run somebody else's podcast.
That's right.
Or I can't stand that. I'm like, you could do special episodes. Just be there. Just show up. You could.
That's right.
So anyways, we're not going to do that. We're going to try to do some things. Show up for you a little bit different than normal, but we will absolutely show up and provide value every Friday that we're on. So.
That's exactly right. I mean, like, just to your point, like with Pivot's one of my favorite podcasts, but I am so annoyed with them. They do scot-free August. It's like, because he goes on vacation, and it's like, I get why he got. I mean, I don't want to belie him his vacation, but if I was a sponsor or if I was, as an audience member, it annoys the hell out of me, because it's like, half the reason that I listen to that podcast is to hear Scott, right?
And I wonder how many people don't come. I know they're doing great, so we have no.
Well, I mean, they're doing fine.
I wonder
how
many people don't come back and say, "Well, I'm here for Scott," and then you forget about it. You got into something else.
Yeah. Well, and for a podcast like ours, we can't afford it, right? So it's like, we need to make sure that we're here. We need you. We need you. We need you. We need you.
We want you. We need you.
Exactly.
Stand on that wall. Okay. So happy 4th to you.
Happy 4th to you. And you got a big party this weekend. Yeah, big party and
we have
all that.
Our big July 4th party. Lots of Thurman hot dogs, lots of hamburgers, pasta salads, the whole. We've got contests and games, and Lord knows what my wife has cooked up. She loves July 4th. She does the craziest things. We've been doing this for quite a while. It'll be super fun. So
there it is. There it is.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Well, thank you everybody for making it this far. And basically, remember, next week it's going to be me, and you'll hear a little bit about my new book and some, a little bit of a shorter, but certainly, hopefully, no less energetic show to hopefully give you a little bit of a tip about what I'm going to be talking about at CEX and all of that in the new book. And then the next week after that, you'll have Joe, and then we'll flip back and forth for the month of July. So we hope to see you next week. I hope to see you next week. And before I see you next week, just remember, remember, it's your story to tell. Tell it well. We'll see you next week on This Old Marketing. Hey, thanks a lot for making it this far in this week's episode, and thank you all for being a part of This Old Marketing. You can check out all the show notes of what we talked about today at thisoldmarketing.com, and it's also where you can leave us a review or a voicemail. We need those reviews and comments on whichever platform you follow us on. And if you haven't followed the podcast, please go do that and make sure you catch the latest and greatest episodes every Friday morning. We're on Apple and Spotify and all your other favorite podcatchers, of course, but we'd love it if you went over and subscribe to us on YouTube. That's right, YouTube. youtube.com/@thisoldmarketing. We'll see you again next week, folks, with another episode of This Old Marketing.